Hi guys! Today we're going to practice value shading and then we're going to make our own imaginary planet that we're going to make look realistic using value. So to get started, we're going to do a value scale. So we just need a pencil and an eraser. If you also want to have a piece of paper towel to help with blending, you can have that. And some of you have asked me about this thing that you have in your art kits. This is called a tortillon stump and it can also help with blending. So if you want to have this out, you can have that too. So to get started, we're going to draw a value scale. So first we need to draw a long, skinny rectangle up the side of our paper, like this. It does not have to be a perfect rectangle, just the best you can do. Then we want to section it off. Do a bunch of sections, about each one a square. Again, does not have to be perfect, just the best you can do. At the top, we're going to write lightest, and at the bottom, we're going to write darkest, so we know where we're going with this. This box next to lightest, we're going to leave completely white because it's our lightest value. And this box, we're going to color in as dark as we can because it's our darkest value. So I'm going to start with my darkest value. I'm going to press down really, really hard with my pencil, and I'm going to shade back and forth. And I'm going to go back and forth a few times until I fill this box completely. With your pencil, it should look shiny. Super, super shiny. And what this is going to do for us is help us practice using pencil pressure to create light and shadows. Yeah, so I'm going to go sideways, go diagonal, I'm going to go up and down until it's really super dark. All right? Now, between this box and this one, we're going to continually make our boxes lighter. So I'm going to shade this one, and I'm going to use a little bit less pressure than I did in the first one. So you're starting to see some flecks of paper in it. It's a lighter gray than the first box. All right, I'm going to go back over it again, but I'm only going over it twice. I'm not going back and forth and up and down and diagonal like the first box. This next box, I'm using even less pressure. I'm holding my pencil even lighter, okay? When we work on our lightest boxes, someone should be able to take a pencil out of your hand like that, no problem. When we work on our darkest boxes, no one should be able to take a pencil out of your hand. You should be holding it super, super tight. So again, going lighter, I'm holding my pencil with a lot looser grip, and I'm not really going back over it much, just enough in the spots where it's lighter to make it even. All right, next box, same thing. Very, very light. And we continue on. Each box getting lighter than the last. If you find that you got too lightly, too quickly, and you're not sure how you're going to fill these next boxes, there's a couple things you could do. You could go back and make previous boxes darker so that you have more places to go, like so. And when you get to the really, really lightest boxes, just barely touching the paper, like that. Another way to do it is by blending. So this is where we take a piece of paper towel, we rub it on our darkest boxes, and then we rub it and bring that value along to the lightest boxes. And that creates a more blended scale. And actually, you can create a value scale just with this by pushing down hard. And as it runs out, it creates a natural value scale. You can do the same thing with a tortillon stump. Rubbing it really hard. And you notice it makes the value scale even more uniform. Same thing. It creates its own value scale. If you find you went too dark on any of your boxes, you can take your eraser and lighten it back up. Okay, and there you have a value scale. Now when you're done with that, it's time for us to design our own imaginary planet. So for making our own planet, I like to have something circular to trace, like a ball of tape, or you could have a cup, or a bowl, or a small plate. Anything that's a circle. And I'm going to trace it. If you don't have anything circular to trace and you just want to freehand it, that's fine too. Go for it. So now I'm going to design what features I want on my new planet that I get to make up any way I want. And when I'm doing that, I need to think of what kind of things I like seeing on a planet. So for features, we mean stuff. What stuff is going to be on your planet? So I like to have rings, like Saturn's rings. I think those look really cool on a planet. But it could also be mountains, rivers, water of any kind, buildings, clouds, volcanoes, and you can brainstorm some more on your own as well. Whatever kind of stuff you want on your planet so it's not a plain boring ball. So I said I wanted rings on my planet. When I make a ring, I start on the edge of my planet and then I make like an N shape, like a letter N. Now I'm going to bring my letter N in across my planet into kind of like a happy face line. It's just very slightly curved, and then back into a U shape that mimics that first N shape. And I make these a little pointier than like a regular N or letter U shape would be. They have a little bit more of a point at the top. Again, I'm drawing a little darker so you can see it on camera, but I would recommend you guys to keep yours very light so you can erase it. Now this is looking like Saturn, right? And I don't want to make Saturn. I want to make my own planet. So I'm going to make another ring crisscrossing the other way, like no planet we've ever seen before. I think that'll look really cool. I'm also thinking my planet's going to have a lot of swirly rivers because I really like the way that swirls look. I think they're really pretty. And I also really like rivers. I think they're fun. But again, if you want more mountains or jelly beans or diamonds, this is your fantasy planet and it can look however you choose. So there's a lot of swirly stuff going on. All right, once you're finished designing your planet, it's time to color it. So when I color my planet, I want to use crayons or colored pencils will work out best. If you want to use markers, you can, but you can't get quite the same pressure of blending like we did in our value scale. So I'm going to use colored pencil. I'm going to test it out first on the side just to see what kind of color blending I can get out of it, what kind of shading. And I can see that's working out pretty well. I can get some really, really nice dark values and it goes to very light. Now, I'm going to start with the color that I think I want my planet to be most of. And I think I want it to be mostly green, and then I'm going to add some blue in the rivers. So the base color of my planet is what I'm going to start with. Before I start shading it, I need to decide where my light source is coming from. So I usually do something like the top right. I don't know why, it's just where I'm usually most comfortable shading from. I'm going to draw a little sun here. This is where the light is coming from. So I know that the lightest part of my planet is going to be right here because it's the part of my planet that's closest to the sun. So when I start shading, I'm going to start with the darkest part of my planet. And I'm going to start in a letter C shape. So I'm going to outline the outer curve of my planet in a letter C shape from that sun. So the thickest part of my letter C shape should be exactly opposite side of my planet where the sun is. And this is going to go really, really dark because this is the part of my planet that is farthest away from the sun. It's getting no light. It's really, really dark. Okay. And now I'm going to start filling in those mid-tones. So the mid-tones again are between the darkest tone and your lightest tone. So again, I'm shading in curves. When I was coloring and shading in my value over here, I was shading in straight lines because the contour or the outside edge of my value scale was straight. Now the contour or the outside edge of my object is rounded, so I want to shade rounded. So I'm using my whole hand, curving my wrist to create the shadows on my planet. And I'm getting lighter and lighter and lighter as I get closer to my highlight, filling in those mid-shadow points in between. All right, and this is not going to be perfect. It's just the best that we can do. Now, if you want to, you could even blend multiple colors into your planet. So say I'm done with that, and I want to take another color in to layer it on top and help blend it in the colors of my planet. When we're doing this with colors, you can't really use the paper towel or the Tertullian stump. They don't blend colored pencils and crayons as well as they do like graphite pencils, but you can still get a really, really nice effect. And again, leaving that spot closest to the sun white. Okay, I think that's pretty good. You can always go back if you need to, touch up any areas where you think could be a little bit darker, but careful not to go too dark, because once you go dark, again with colors, you can't really bring it back to lighter again. Okay? All right, once you're done with that, it's time to start adding in detail. So I recommend when you make your planet that we start with a lighter color, because it's going to be a lot easier to do details over it with darker colors. If you started with like a pure black planet, there's not really anywhere to go from that. You might be able to take your eraser, wherever my eraser is, and you might be able to lighten up certain areas of your planet if you want to bring a highlight back. But it's not going to be great because they're not really designed to erase colored pencil. So just do the best you can. If you mess up, you can always grab a new piece of paper, design a new planet. That could be your proto-planet, your practice. There's no wasted designs in art because everything you do, even if it doesn't end up being something that you show other people, is still great practice. You can always learn something from everything you do. And notice how it's harder to see my designs in the darker part of my planet than it is in the lighter part of my planet. That's okay. That happens in a normal planet too. The shadows make it harder to see things. Notice how when I get to this lighter part of my planet, I don't really have many designs. That's because there's kind of a bright light off that part of the planet. So I'm not really going over them as hard. That's by design as well. All right, I think that's pretty much done. All that's left is my rings. And again, I left them till last, so I want to use my darkest color to make my rings. Something that's going to go over all my other colors. So I got this really nice blue, dark, dark blue. I'm going to go over my rings. I'm going to do a few lines because rings in a planet are made up of lots of debris and rock and dust getting pulled and pulled and pulled into layers around the planet. So it's not just one line, it's a bunch of them, but again, you're making your own planet. You do you. Your rings can look however you want them to look. Maybe I'll even use this darker pencil and give an even darker shadow to this edge of my planet, just to really darken it up, make it pop, stand out. All right, and there you go. There's my realistically shaded fantasy planet. When you're all done with this, you can either leave it in your art portfolio like this, or you can choose to cut it out and glue it onto a piece of black paper, whatever you want. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you next time.